Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about something that's extraordinarily taboo, and we're going to be discussing whether or not the Subaru WRX has become somewhat of a dad car. Now, I think there is something that the whole industry, creators, haven't really talked about, and this, I promise you, will not be a boring video because I'm going to discuss something that I don't think is discussed enough across all automotive platforms, but I think unfortunately the WRX is falling victim to it. And yeah, that includes all generation WRXs, the STI. I think this is a systemic problem that is just something that we're going to face and are facing, but nobody really wants to talk about it. So I know that you guys like to find out what my opinion is before I even start the video, so I can say that without giving anything away. Is the WRX becoming a dad car? Absolutely. And it's not necessarily the WRX's fault, nor is it the community's fault. The culprit is actually just the progression of the automotive industry. Now, what am I defining as a dad car in this instance? No, I'm not talking about a minivan. I'm really just talking about a car that isn't more, it doesn't breach the excitement that somebody that has a family of 4 and wants a little of excitement but needs a vast amount of practicality and doesn't need something that's like overextending in what you would consider the fun part of the car. And I think unfortunately the WRX is becoming more and more of that answer. And this is why. So the automotive community, the progression of performance in cars just in the last 5 or 6 years has been so extraordinary and so fast relative to the cost of entry to get into these platforms. It is really setting the WRX and STI behind. Now, it goes on both ways. Cheaper cars that can make very high horsepower and be like fun, fast cars. Right now, I'm not saying they're equivalent, but I'm just saying from a fun enthusiasm standpoint, cars are getting cheaper on the cheapest end. So you can build high horsepower builds for way less money than you could before. Now, all of you guys are gonna be like, well, the creature comforts, you can't lose those. The same goes on the opposite end of the spectrum. So unfortunately, cars are becoming much, much faster without really increasing the price. Now, yes, they're more expensive, but the WRX and STI are more expensive as well. And I think what we're falling into is when you think about, if you spend $10,000 more than a brand new WRX, like a premium WRX, you're starting to be able to buy 3-liter Supras, Mustang GTs. Now, I don't want to say the Mustang GT is a big step up. I'm just saying it's a faster car out of the box. But you can start buying some Porsches. You can start getting into German cars. You're all of a sudden you're in the faster offsets of Audis and BMWs. And sure, they're not off the lot. They're used. But why would you ever spend, let's say you're buying a limited trim WRX off the lot and you're spending close to $40,000, where a lightly used Supra is $43,000. I don't understand fundamentally how you can get past that. Now, I don't want to skew this video and say everything is about speed and performance, but what is happening, and I've seen it as a creator because I see massive sections of data analytics around this car and just general sentiment in the community and outside of the community, because I make these fringe videos that make people think a little bit about the WRX platform. No, they're not crazy videos. They're just but I get to see the reaction at a larger scale. The WRX and STI have fallen into this well, you can have a little bit of fun and you still have 4 doors and you don't lose the car in its entirety, and it has all-wheel drive, and you can have a family, and it has decent gas mileage, and it has good safety ratings. Yeah, sure, those are all wonderful aspects of a car, but it's becoming the out, right? Because all of these other manufacturers are seeking performance and more fun or more luxury or whatever it is, and the WRX just isn't following, right? The progression in speed for this car just hasn't tracked. I think the most frustrating thing in the way that you can look at it, and again, I know speed isn't everything, but the the STI and the WRX in 2013 and 2014, I think technically was faster than any following year off the lot. I think technically. Now, it depends on who tested it, but stock testing numbers on those years were pretty dang good for 0s to 60s. Now again, speed is not everything. I don't want it to be sold as it's everything. It's just food for thought in the progression of the automotive engineering world. And I think unfortunately, it's also the progression in sentiment and what's available. You know, the older generation is buying the WRXs for practicality reasons. And I think that that's having, at least on my end, maybe an undesirable effect on what's happening with the aftermarket community, but you can't unsee it. You know, the average purchaser of a Subaru WRX and STI is older, right? Yes, that's because the community that was buying them in the first place is aging. That's going to happen with any platform. But they're more expensive, they're harder to get into, and they're more attractive towards the, you know, the family car or the versatility behind what it is. And that's having bigger effects. I can also speak from the parts perspective in the aftermarket, part development side of things. People aren't modding their cars as much. There are more stock WRXs on the road than there's ever been in like pretty much the history of this platform, right? It's always been a tuner's platform, and unfortunately it's not that, or it's changing. Maybe that's the best way to say it. It's changing, and there isn't as much money in the aftermarket and less parts are being made. And that is 100% factual. I know a lot of folks are gonna, you know, argue with me in the comments, but as somebody that develops parts for these cars, because there's less part sales, there's less money and incentive to develop new parts, so there's less parts coming to the market. So, you know, you're gonna see more and more like all these requests for we want this, we want this, we want to develop this, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but look, it's hard for that to happen because there just isn't the incentive to do it. So I know that I've talked about a bunch of different things here, and I want to kind of cycle back to, is the WRX and STI becoming a dad car? Yeah, it totally is. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all. Is it bad for some people? Sure. You know, I think for me, it's been a bit of a wake-up call because I think that this platform offered a type of sense of community for a long time, and I think that community is shifting away from what I had originally enjoyed in the original community. I'm not saying that anyone out there with these cars is bad or any way. I just think that, you know, what's the right way to say this? You know, I miss the variability in potential owners, right? And I think that it's tough because you have a lot of people treating this as a safer platform, which I think is great, you know, individually, right? I'm just thinking as a mass here, but it's an interesting problem just in general. So, and again, it's not a problem. I don't want this to come off as like this is a huge bad thing or anything like that. I think it's just different, and this car has become the safe choice for a lot of folks, which is totally fine, right? That's awesome. But it is not what it used to be when it was paving the way in tuning and rally driving and all those things. It's still a great vehicle, but you know, hopefully this is a wake-up call for Subaru. But the reality is financially, and the economics behind it is probably a good thing for them, right? The older their buyers and the more that they can charge for these cars, the better it is for Subaru. Although all of us want to push against that, that's just a statement of reality, and I don't think that's going to change. So I feel like I have to create a whole nother video kind of talking about what makes sense for Subaru, because I think most of the time when I make videos like this, everybody says in the comments, like, that doesn't make any sense, like Subaru wouldn't do that. And I have, like, I guess, like, the biggest thing is Subaru owes us nothing. They're a for-profit company, they're out there to make money, and if there's more money in taking it away from the few folks that whole ideology, you know, makes them uncomfortable, they're not going to change it for you. So, and I don't want that to be an attack on anybody that has that opinion, because I very much sentimentally feel the same way, but from a reality statement also understand that, like, Subaru's out here to make money. Like, that's what they've got to do. They're not going to change anything, although I hope they do, and I hope we can make more power with the platform. I honestly, at this point, don't think that's where it's going to go, but I'll have a whole nother video on that in a separate thing. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, guys, just like the video. It does a lot for the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.